I got the bug for building, starting, trying, experimenting very early on, all the way back to sort of middle school. I was selling Pokemon cards at lunchtime. Most of my time in the UK has been in healthcare. I don't come from a family of doctors. I got into this mainly because I was excited about the opportunity to develop medical hardware. So I spent 6-7 years with a team that was building a very, very cutting edge medical laser for use in treatment of skin, and then actually transitioned with the business to running a clinic. We opened our doors in the middle of COVID, which was an absolutely terrible time to open your doors.
1, 2, 3, 4. Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkify podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today I'm joined by Jared Aron, founder of Coherent Healthcare and a former clinic leader focused on reducing leakage across the private patient journey. We're going to be exploring why retention beats constant acquisition, how clinics can build scalable patient engagement systems, and where human support must remain central as healthcare adopts AI. I am really excited about this one. Welcome to the show, Jared.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really pleasure to be here. I appreciate your having me.
And despite his accent, listeners, he is actually in the UK with me mid-heat wave. How are you finding it?
Yeah, good. I actually love this weather. Yeah, exactly. Ignore the accent from the US originally, but every time it goes up to north of like 30 degrees, I get very excited and all of my local colleagues and family members and friends start to melt. This is very native for me, so I love the temperature. I could do 40 very happily every day.
I think I'm the same, you know. I never used to be, but I genuinely think I am. I've got my wife's Thai, so we spend a lot of time in Thailand, and I just...
Exactly, you just build resistance. Exactly.
Okay, right. Okay, Jared, tell us please a little bit about your journey then, and how did you come to be the founder of Coherent Healthcare?
A co-founder, importantly. I have a very, very capable co-founder who runs all the technology program. But yeah, so I guess quick introduction on me. I was raised in the US, East Coast, got the bug for building, starting, trying, experimenting very early on, all the way back to sort of middle school. I was the kid, I'm about to date myself now, selling Pokemon cards at lunchtime. And so that sort of stayed with me for a while. I knew that I always wanted to be in the early stage business building environment. I got a lot of energy from that, and that continued all the way through school. Left the US probably about 12 years ago now. Did a short stint in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, and then came up to the UK 2015, so just over 10 years. And I was actually here on holiday and then met my former chairman and now wife in the same 4 or 5 days or 6 days of being here, and very quickly needed to figure out my visa and decided, okay, the UK was going to be the next chapter. And now I live here in the UK. I have been here for about 10 years, and it's been great. Most of my time in the UK has been in healthcare. I don't come from a background of healthcare. I don't come from a family of doctors. I think a lot of people who end up working in healthcare have a sort of 10, 15 year history with many, many stories about how they sat in the waiting room of their mom and dad's GP surgery. That was not me. I got into this mainly because I was excited about the opportunity to develop medical hardware. So I spent 6-7 years with a team that was building a very, very cutting edge medical laser for use in treatment of skin. And so I did that for about 6-7 years and then actually transitioned with the business to running a clinic. We opened our doors in the middle of COVID, which was an absolutely terrible time to open your doors, especially in a like high face-to-face elective care environment. That was not a good thing to do, but we opened doors in July 2020. And then I spent the next, whatever it was, sort of 12 to 18 months growing that clinic to four-wall profitability, and then ultimately stepping back, taking some time out, and then starting Coherent. And Coherent was very much the response to a lot of the challenges that I experienced when running clinic, the sort of constant firefighting at the what we call like the front desk or the front of house. And so now we're really fortunate to work with about 250 healthcare providers across the UK, more recently in US and Canada, all in private, typically elective care. And we, I'm sure we'll get into it further, but basically we help them improve what we describe as patient operations. How do you help patients get from intake to discharge in the most supported, efficient, enjoyable way possible? doing that means patients are happy, and oftentimes it has an impact on the bottom line in terms of the clinic performance as well. So more of the business side of healthcare, not so much on the clinical side of healthcare, but that's been my sort of journey to and through the beginning of the Coherent story.
Oh, that's awesome! Really, really great, and nice that you settled here for this next chapter. So I guess the premise of today's conversation, a lot of the times we'll have guests on and we'll talk about things like customer acquisition, growth strategies, but really what we're talking about here is being able to increase profitability through better operations of the clinic. And that, I suppose, one, it's a business that lends itself to sort of repeat custom and referral. So you'll drive, by running a good business, you will hopefully drive or maintain growth. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. I don't think anyone would argue with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely the case.
Okay, perfect. So I think my first question then would be, what were those front of desk fire put out situations? What are the leaky bucket problems? What was it that you saw in running that clinic that made you think, I can start a business and that I can solve problems? What were those problems that you saw?
Yeah. So I think if you sort of rewind the clock, say go back like 50 years, right? Think about a dermatologist running a healthcare practice 50 years ago, assuming, pen and paper based. There was a very real ceiling on how many patients that practitioner or clinician or clinic could support. And if you go all the way back, even beyond 50 years, usually it was a single practitioner in a single site serving a small community of patients. And more often than not, there would be this really close relationship between the practitioner and the patient, because the time existed and that familiarity was sort of baked into the patient experience. And I think what's happened in the last few decades is that technology has slowly sort of crept into healthcare provider operations. And so you get this efficiency uplift in many ways, but you also get this depersonalization. People start becoming numbers, they start becoming patient identities, they start becoming referral codes. You lose a lot of the patient relationship. And I think, in a similar way that if you look at the CRM category outside of healthcare, you've got the HubSpots and the Salesforces of the world. A lot of people are now sort of challenging that with new technology capabilities and saying, actually, CRM of the last 5 to 10 years was just like a place that you put your data and gave you some automation on top. We want to make it about actually maintaining the relationship, about improving the way in which you serve and engage with your customers. I think we have a very similar outlook in healthcare, which is that you've got these legacy, basically databases, largely of healthcare related information, patient records, previous appointment history. Relational intelligence just doesn't exist in a healthcare space, except it's in people's heads. And so if you work in the clinic, you've got this really strong understanding of who your patients are when they're in front of you, but you're also one person, or maybe you're a team of 10 people, 100 people. You can't possibly manage and stay on top of tens of thousands of relationships at any one point in time. And so our view and the problem that we very much experienced as we were growing and scaling practice when I was there, on site, was the idea that patients scale and your team does not scale with it. So you ever have ever increasing flow of patients. Right this week, if it's your first week open, you've got 100 patients. Next week, you've got 200 patients. You've got last week's patients. You've got this week's patients. And then next week, you've got 300 patients. You've got this week's patients, last week's patients, and the week before that. You take that out and you end up with tens of thousands of patients and the same 5 people at the front office, or the same 50 people at the front office. And so you really don't have this ability to serve an ever-growing number of patients. And as a result, the relationships degrade and you lose track of people, they disengage, they drop off, they fall away. And that really becomes a tax, on the clinical pathway. If patients don't actually complete their journey, they then have to restart it. They've consumed half of their clinical service. But also on the commercial side, you've done all this work to engage with them, find them, bring them through the front door, or at least get an inquiry of some kind. And then it just falls down. And that falling down is really, really, really painful. And that's very much the problem that I experienced in clinic, where we were constantly trying to spend to fill up the patient journey. And it just got worse and worse as we got bigger.
Okay. And just to be clear, this is, because obviously we're both in the UK, we're specifically talking about commercial healthcare. This isn't NHS based stuff, is it?
We don't do anything in the NHS currently, although without naming names, there are some conversations happening in the background around helping patients continue and complete their clinical journeys. Ultimately, this is It's ultimately a relationship problem, no matter how you look at it. But our work right now is very much in sort of three clinical segments. We do a lot in MSK, exercise therapy, physio, chiro, osteo, etc., dentistry and cosmetic dentistry, and then medical aesthetics, dermatology. This is where we focus our time. And we work with sort of single site operators who are doing, $500,000 to $1.5 million in turnover. And we also work with groups that are doing dozens of sites and in some cases tens of millions of dollars in revenue.
Okay, that's really cool. So my experience is limited to the national healthcare system, but I have experienced the number, not a name, which obviously is probably magnified inside of the NHS because of the drained resources. But you can see the overwhelm of information. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I get seen by like my sort of diabetic nurse, my consultant. I changed address recently and I updated it in one place. I was told that it needs to be updated in 3 other places, which blew my mind. Why did I have to update it in 3 separate places? Why is it not all just in a cloud somewhere? Yeah. So, I mean, you can see the overwhelm just on an information side. And then obviously a result of that is just going to be a complete loss of that human connection. So how does Coherent enable that, turning a number back into a name?
Yeah. So I think one thing that's worth saying is that for the last 10 years, everyone has been, maybe even 20 years, everyone's been really obsessed with the idea of a patient portal. A lot of the big hospitals that we speak to are really excited about their patient portal. Look, you can go in as a patient, you can check all your things, you can update your information, look at this patient portal. And what we see time and again is that nobody cares about patient portal. As a patient, you don't want to go log into your patient portal. Very, very few patients actually want to go in proactively to another app to update something in an interface, which, let's be honest, unless it's built by Spotify, it's just not going to be slick enough it's just not going to be good enough, right? And so you end up with this fragmentation.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of my NHS doctor's portal and it's just unusable.
Come on, you just can't. You can't expect people to do that, right? We always say in healthcare, as with most things where you're touching customers, being sort of consumers, your competition is not other providers, it's Netflix. It's Meta. It's companies that are designed and have billions of dollars to invest in the attention economy. And as a healthcare provider, you are competing with them. You are competing with Netflix. The reason that a patient does not follow up or does not rebook the cancellation from yesterday, or if you're in the NHS, non-attendance is a huge issue because it consumes resources. People block out time in the calendar. People don't show up because more often than not, life is busy and attention is scattered, and that is what you're up against. And so the idea that your, side quest patient portal, that, the director of IT services who's been inside of your healthcare organization for the last 25 years is suddenly going to roll out the most incredible patient experience, it's just not going to happen, right? It's the same reason that in fintech, Monzo and Revolut and these guys, they just took the show, and HSBC and Barclays, they're good for some things, but it was never going to be that usability, that digital first on-ramp. It's the same thing in healthcare. Your patient portal is really important to you, and most patients just don't care about it. Patients want to be met where they are. They want to spend time engaging with their healthcare providers where they are already spending time. Patients are already spending time in their email, in their SMS, in their WhatsApp, increasingly not on the phone. So there's this huge stigma in healthcare where you got to call people. People don't want to be called. People don't answer the phone, especially younger demographics. And the data that we see, overwhelmingly, the highest performing channels are mobile first. Email is a dead channel. Snail mail has been a dead channel for a while. And calls oftentimes are a dead channel unless you're in very acute care. So if you're looking to really support and meet a patient where they are, you got to show up where they are.
This is fascinating. So I really want to get into this because it's really, really interesting. What I'm thinking is that there's a reason that this hasn't happened quickly, and it's got to be sort of compliance based, I'm guessing, because I'll get a message from my doctors saying I need to have such and such flu vaccine because I'm type 1. I'll have to click on a link which doesn't work in a certain browser, or the doctor will say, you've been for your diabetic check, you're going to get your HbA1c result, you need to take a phone call to get the result. And I'll say, well, when are you going to ring me? I don't know. It'll be an 8-hour window. No good. Can't ring me on an 8-hour window. I might be doing a podcast with Jared Aron. Do you know what I mean? It's useless. There are things that I like. Email is great for me. WhatsApp would be great. But are those the places are we saying ditch the portal, meet them where they are? And can we legally and through compliance do that?
So I want to be very careful here, and caveat in every imaginable way that I can. I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be expert in where the compliance lines are drawn. And I think it's also really important to specify that at Coherent, we do not do clinical conversation. So we are not talking to people about their actual healthcare, their actual clinical needs right now, at least. We specifically focus on effectively customer support for healthcare, right? So this is administrative, service-based, low risk conversations. Any kind of healthcare conversation is a high risk conversation, but we're talking about, helping people rebook their next appointment. We're talking about people schedule an initial consultation. We're not talking about doing a high complexity clinical intake. So we are a patient operations enabler.
That's the bulk of community,
which is a huge amount of it. Exactly. So it's a huge amount of it, but we don't sit in the clinical flow. So a lot of the things that you're describing, I imagine, and also, I don't know the NHS as well. I imagine that a lot of the decisions that they've made may be compliance backed in the sense that they don't want to be sending you sensitive information about your vaccine history or blood results in a WhatsApp message. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but it also could be entirely self-imposed, right? Like, why haven't people actually rolled that out or made that possible? That's going to escape me. I don't have the answers to that. But what I will say is that overwhelmingly, and share some data that we see right now, the practices that we support, they go on to support in excess of 550,000 patients. So we see a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we see is that, and this will be of no surprise, more often than not, SMS and WhatsApp-based engagement are 5, 6, 7, in some cases even 8 or 9x response rate by comparison to legacy channels. And I'll put phone call in the legacy channel. And I think one of the opinions that we hold, which is a little bit controversial, is that everyone's really excited about voice AI in healthcare. And we absolutely are also excited about voice AI in healthcare. But we think the reason that voice AI in healthcare has been so dominant is because people are trained. They have decades of experience to assume that the only way to engage with your healthcare provider is to call them. Because if you ever sent an email in, or you ever sent an SMS in, or you ever sent a WhatsApp in, it just goes into a black hole. You may or may not get a response. And so if you need to get a response, you call. But I think that's a wrong bottoms-up assumption. If you have a front door that's really accessible inside someone's WhatsApp, they will go there first. And we see this happen all the time where we reach out to patient, they come back through that door because they know you're going to respond. And so if you're concerned about, can we call people and get them on the phone? My hit rate is really low when I'm calling a new inquiry. It's because most people are dropping a new inquiry at the middle of their working day. And so we keep having this conversation with healthcare providers where they say, well, we try and reconnect with the patient. It's like, what time are you doing those? What time are you doing that? They're like, oh, when our practitioners have free time around their lunch. It's like, oh, cool. So right at the middle of the working day of the patient who's absolutely not going to answer the phone or respond to a message. Yes. Okay, cool. Go have fun, right? Like go bang that wall as much as you want. So I think the mindset shift that we always encourage for the practice that we work with, and what we try to do is, what is going to make this really, really easy for the patient to engage with? How do we make this so easy that it's almost easier to respond than to not respond? How do we achieve that sort of simplicity? And there are a lot of companies that do that outside of healthcare, and I think that should be the standard. It's ultimately a customer service experience, and we all know the difference of reaching out to a company where you bought shoes online, you try and get a return order form, it takes you 5 phone calls, 25 emails. You're never going back there. I mean, that's the end of the experience. Whereas if you do it on Amazon, it's one message and then it's resolved. And that, I think, is the standard that we need to be pursuing in healthcare.
I mean, this can boil down to things as important as like closing sales then, I'm sure. Like you have somebody go for a free consultation, and if the follow-up is a unanswered phone call at lunchtime in the middle of the working day and that's it, compared to a WhatsApp message that they can see when they get home. And like, I have to reply to my WhatsApp messages because I don't want all those little red dots that means I've got unresponded WhatsApp messages. So like, maybe I'm buying this treatment because that's where I'm living in my WhatsApp and I want to respond to the messages.
Yeah, I know exactly that. And it's funny, there was, at least in private healthcare, there was this, probably the last 5-6 years, there's been this wave of obsession around speed to lead, right? How quickly can we answer an inbound inquiry? And speed to lead is very important, not in any way trying to discredit that. It's true everywhere, right? It's true in B2B sales. It's true in B2C sales. It's always true. But what people grossly underestimate is the consistency, the speed, the quality of the follow-up post that first response. It is absolutely critical. We see examples of patients who reach out, who get a 1-minute reply, less than 1 minute, almost real-time reply, and who still need 20 plus points of engagement to move ahead. It's not because they're bad people. It's because, again, life's busy. They're traveling. They go away. They weren't feeling well. It's not important to them anymore. You have to keep showing up. Anyone who works in B2B sales will tell you, you have to keep showing up. You don't want to be pushy. You don't want to be aggressive. You certainly don't want to be salesy in healthcare. This is about consultation and discovery and support, but you have to keep showing up. And you can't show up randomly on an email on a Wednesday. You have to show up reliably. You have to show up in a way that's empathy first, and you have to be ready to engage with the patient. And so what we always say is, show me your total inquiries and total new starters in a given month. Show me that number. Now, many healthcare providers don't even know that number. They can't actually tell you, oh, last month we had 250 new inquiries. We had 250,000 new inquiries, and X number of them actually moved forward to engage with a consultation of some kind. Most providers can't even give you those numbers. They can give you the starters in a given month, but they can't give you the number above that. And so we always say, let us just do a little mystery shopping. We're just going to come, poke around, pretend to be a patient. I did this morning with a group. They have, 45 sites. They've got a chat widget on the website, and you put a note in the chat widget. Nobody responds for 7 minutes. When they do respond, they say, "Oh, thanks so much for getting in touch. Here's a booking link. Feel free to book directly in." They don't know my name. They don't know my phone number. They don't know my email. I'm gone. That's it. Poof. So you've spent all this time and energy and money driving that patient to your website. You finally have them there, and they're ready to engage. You can literally type in, "I would like to book a consultation." 7 minutes pass, and that person is gone. And that is where we talk about this idea of leakage. That is happening all over the journey. It's happening with emails that don't get picked up. It's happening with WhatsApp messages that get lost in the WhatsApp. It's happening with patients left, right, and center. And this is a huge problem for healthcare providers.
Yeah, that's scary, because the whole chat widget thing is not really that new in terms of technology, and that seems like an ill thought out sort of flow. We talked about leaky bucket, and you mentioned about a potential customer from first point of contact to sort of closed sale could be 100+ days of continual communication. So you can clearly see how a customer like that could fall through the cracks. So from everything that you've talked about, how do you advise medical practices, even those that aren't using Coherent, let's say, which I assume, makes this whole thing a lot easier, but what are some things that can be done in order to ensure that that person doesn't fall through the cracks? Because, we closed a sale recently for my agency, and we looked at the number of exchanged emails, and I think it was 65 emails to close the sale. Myself and my wife, we just relatively recently been through the process of IVF, and I looked at the number of emails that I'd sent between myself and the very patient lady that dealt with me from the IVF clinic, and it was 165 emails. I was emailing they closed me. I had a lot of questions. So yeah, how does that look?
Yeah, so I think the one thing to bear in mind here is that this is not a human problem. This is a technology problem. There is there's no two ways around that. If you took 165 emails, 165 points of correspondence, and you were high intent, right? You wanted to move forward. So you were co-creating that energy. Oftentimes that isn't the case in healthcare. Patients, not that they don't want to do it, but life is busy. They don't have the same incentive. Are you really that excited about your dental hygiene? Probably not. Are you going to do it? Probably. So assuming that the patient needs support, it very quickly becomes not a human problem. And I think this is the one thing that healthcare providers need to take away. You cannot throw bodies at this problem. And then the math is simple, right? You took 165 points of correspondence. Multiply that by 1,000 people who are going through this journey in a given month. You've got a number of correspondences, points of engagement, question variations, operational issues. Unless you're going to hire hundreds of people, which you're not because it's not efficient for your business, it's not a human problem. So there needs to be a technology focus in the conversation. There needs to also be a human focus in the conversation, because these are very sensitive, very high empathy, very high consideration questions, conversations. So we think that the answer is very much tech and human together. But if you're not going to put tech in place, or if you're trying to solve this in-house, I think there are two things to do. The first thing to do is to change what you track. And so very often we see a lot of clinics will have Google Sheets and Trello boards and workflows and tasks lists and all these sorts of things that really focus on the inputs. When I say the inputs, I mean the things that the team needs to do. So we've got 20 cancellations yesterday. So now there are 20 new tasks. We need to call all those new tasks. Once the call is made, it moves to the next column. Once the SMS is sent, it moves to the next column. These are all inputs, completely irrelevant in terms of getting the job done. If you can send a carrier pigeon and never pick up the phone and never SMS, and that person comes back and that patient rebooks, you are successful. The thing you need to track is the outcome of the event. And so we often will say to healthcare providers, stop tracking at a management level, at a business owner level, stop tracking the inputs and just look at the outcomes. So
but how do you know it's been done?
And this is partially why it's a technology problem, right? So there is always a proof point on, for an example, an appointment. So if you, Chris, you canceled your dental hygiene, let's say you have dental hygiene appointment tomorrow, you cancel the appointment. Say, I have calendar conflict, I've got a scheduling issue, I got to pick up my kids from school. I'll call you back to make an appointment. You're never going to call back. I'll call you back to make an appointment. What the clinic will do is they will send you a message. They'll say, hey, Chris, sorry you had to cancel. Let us know if you need help rebooking. We're here to help you. That's a checkpoint for them. I've done my job. Then they'll maybe send an email. Maybe they'll send another SMS to you. Maybe they'll try and call you. They'll do 3, 4, 5 things. Good practices will do 3, 4, 5 things. And if you don't engage, they don't care. The job that they are doing is to contact you. That's not the job. The job is the outcome. And so Chris needs to be booked back in. The job is not done until Chris is booked back in. And so the thing that you need to be tracking is not what's going out, but what's coming back in. And oftentimes healthcare providers just won't do this. They'll say, oh, I've got my recall messages, as an example, retention and patient recall. I've got my recall messages sent. The question we always ask is, do you know if they're working? You've got 10,000 patients who are due for patient recall. You send out a bunch of messages. So you've got this recall program working. Are they coming back in? How do you know? So this is ultimately a data problem. The data exists. It's in the booking systems. You can see it in the calendar. Most practices don't even know how to get that data out because, quite frankly, the practice management software don't make it particularly easy to do that. But you need to focus on what's coming back in. You need to focus on the outcomes. So when you're managing your team, your practice manager, your commercial director, the thing you should be asking is not how many things did you do, just tell me what came out the other side. When I was running clinic, we had a in-house sales lead, new patient inquiry handling, and they said, oh, this is my column of people who have a second touch point. This is my column of people on their third touch point. This is my column of people on their fourth touch point. These people I'm going to follow up with next month. It doesn't matter. How many people are coming in tomorrow from that cohort of new inquiries? How many people are coming in tomorrow? Anything else is just noise. We always say there's two statuses, is red or green. They're either out or they're in. And in healthcare, you've got 90% of the patient engagement is in the yellow. But we're going to do another action.
So the answer then is technology, isn't it? It's agentic workflows, be testing and human in the loop. Like, don't have somebody going into Trello and saying, I followed up once, I need to follow up next week, I followed up twice. Just have it automated and see if those WhatsApp follow-ups are working or the email follow-ups are working or a combination of the two working. And whichever one works better, lean on that and have a human in the loop. Is that the answer?
Look, that's our answer. I don't know if it's the only answer, but that's very much our belief system. And, if you look at other industries, e-commerce is a great example. There are entire teams that are A/B testing subject lines. Mm-hmm. Entire teams just to get you to open a Black Friday deal. Now, that's not right for healthcare. You shouldn't be sending out Black Friday deals in healthcare. I'll say that again. You should not be sending out Black Friday deals in healthcare because I get them all the time from my dentist. It's like, new Invisalign thing. So I was like, you're not selling microwaves, guys. This is like, I'm coming to you for my teeth. Like, please do not send me like shoe mailer equivalents with like, branded whatever. It's not appropriate for healthcare, but needless to say, they have entire teams. They're spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars every year just to optimize open rate, to optimize engagement rate. And in healthcare, where actually the patient coming back, forget commercial outcomes, it really matters from a clinical perspective. The best way to avoid tooth decay is just go do hygiene. The best way to ensure your skin is healthy, you don't have problematic moles, just proactively go to the dermatologist. So the action here is really important. Forget the business side, just on a clinical basis is very important.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you've been really, really honest with the audience as well. Like, you haven't come on here just like to sell the product. And I don't think you need to even necessarily. I mean, like a small independent clinic that can afford a $200 Claude subscription and get access to like Fable can start playing with this stuff now.
They can start playing with it.
I've just built this new thing, which is like I inbuilt this A/B testing thing, and it's off the charts. It's nuts what you can do. But I mean, you can clearly see if you're listening to this and you're running any form of like medical practice or clinic, your competition that is not having staff manually input on a Trello board compared to those that have an automated system that is A, B, C, D testing everything, like they're the ones, unfortunately, that are going to still be here in 5 years' time. So, I mean, it's worth sitting up and listening to, I think, isn't it?
I think, we certainly feel that way. I will fall back on one of our ground truths, which is that even though we very much advocate for conversion efficiency and retention and activation in the patient body, you shouldn't be selling. we just don't think healthcare is the place for sales. We often talk about a sales desk is not a reception desk because you have this issue in the clinic where the people who are doing your patient operations are administrators and they're service people. And if an administrator comes in and sees an empty calendar, their bias is to go order stock or to do a stock check or to rewrite some policies or to do something administrative. If a revenue-centric, commercially minded person is sitting at the front desk, they see an open calendar, they say, oh, I've got to get to work. And I think that's the other side of the problem is that it's not just a technology problem, it's also a people problem. If you fundamentally have the wrong people with the wrong incentives who are responsible for doing this work, even if part of it is automated, you are going to be battling uphill. And we often see this is the case when we go into clinic. We say, wow, you've got a wonderful front desk team. You've got an incredible team of patient administrators. They cannot tell you what last week's conversion efficiency is. They don't know. They don't even know where to find it. They don't even care. They never even thought about it. Not because they're bad, just doing a different job. And so you have this problem of we need the technology, and we also need to think about getting the right people in order to be able to drive that technology. It's these two pieces that are working together. And for us, it's very much technology. And it's a CRM with no, marketer, or CRM with no salesperson, or CRM with no go-to-market person sitting behind it. It's like giving a CRM to your finance manager. It's like, oh, okay, great. What am I supposed to do with this? This is not a helpful tool for me in my day-to-day.
These are the businesses that I like engaging with today. The ones that everything that you do that has like a layer of automation behind it, and it's smooth and it's efficient, and you buy something and you get an automated like email back. They create your portal for you. You need to click a link, it automatically, you set your password. Like everything just works. It's clean, it's efficient. It's absolutely perfect. You're not bombarded. You're not sent like 20 different emails where one's a receipt, one's an invoice, one's login. It's like, when it's perfect on the automated side, and I can also ring them and get like a human answer like straight away, or send an email and not get an automated reply. Someone will get back to it, but like get an email back from someone like a human. That combination's got to be the winning combination, hasn't it?
I think so, and I think also. I mean, I'm not deeply read in the new AI regulations, but I know that there's a lot of push for AI identifying itself. So if you call a clinic and you say, hi, I want to book an appointment, I think there's an expectation that in the coming months, whatever it might be, the AI has to identify itself as an AI. And so some of the clinic owners that we speak with, and it's a really interesting conversation, they say, it's great that I'm going to put in place this AI receptionist. If AI has to identify itself on the call and 80% of my patients don't want to deal with it, they just want to talk to a person, then actually, is it doing its job? And so it's exactly as you're saying. Our belief is that there is a hybrid here. There is a technology plus human solution. It's really hard to deliver that. There's a great, great articles out recently around building technology plus people solutions is sort of like building a consulting firm and a technology firm at the same time. And it's really hard to get, one of them is hard, doing them together is really hard. So we definitely find it challenging. But I think the question that we always ask ourselves is, do you, as an individual, as a clinic owner, would you put your own child, your spouse, in front of an AI-only practitioner? Or would you expect them to call in and deal with an AI receptionist where the failure rate on conversion might be 40 or 50%? If you hesitate to answer that question, that hesitation is the whole argument. Just there. It's right there, right? If you wouldn't send your kid in, if you wouldn't send your spouse in, if you'd say, you know what, if I called the clinic and I got some nonsense, hi, Jared, nice to whatever, and I just can't be bothered. If you're hesitating, that is the problem. That is fundamentally the problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And just as an example of what it will look like if you go too far the other way is I recently tried to sign up for the OpenAI ChatGPT ad platform account with our business. Our business is a different registered name than our trading name, as many businesses are. And therefore they were unable to like verify the business details. I have subsequently sent 12, 13 emails, always replied from OpenAI saying, just to let you know, this is the OpenAI AI. Like, I'm not a human. I've now stopped emailing. They haven't got my business. They're like the world's leading AI technology companies.
Yeah, and it's OpenAI can, no disrespect to you, of course, but like OpenAI might be able to handle that. It's a way of the world. WhatsApp is a great example. Using WhatsApp is an absolute headache, oftentimes, particularly WhatsApp Business, and Meta largely don't care, or they've not made it particularly easy. But if you're Meta, you can probably get away with it. If you are, Foresight Dental Group in Sheffield or Manchester, I don't know that you have the same luxury. I don't know that you can be like saying no to tens of thousands of pounds of revenue. And dentist is a great example because oftentimes you get lifetime dentistry. Family grows up in a certain neighborhood. You see the parents, you see the kids. The parents stay, they get older, become grandparents. Kids move back to the area. They have their own kids. There are sometimes you see in private dentistry, you might see a family that has an 100,000 pound lifetime value in one household. I don't think that most small and medium-sized healthcare provider groups
can afford to say no to that.
Yeah, you really have to believe that things are going to be good if you're saying no to that possibility. The problem is you don't know who it is, right? So you have to treat everyone with the same quality of engagement and support because you don't know which family, which person comes in with a one-time need, a 10-time need, a multifamily need. These are unknowns.
Jared, this has been an absolutely fantastic discussion. For anybody that's listening that wants to either get in touch with you, if you could share maybe some socials, or if anyone that's interested in the tool as well, please feel free to share some links and info now.
Sure. Best way to get in touch with us is via website. So we're at coherenthq.com. And I can assure you, given the nature of our work, we respond very quickly. So you can definitely get in touch. You can get in touch by email. You can get in touch by WhatsApp. You can get in touch by web form. Any way that you want to contact us, we will get in touch with you very, very quickly. And we will follow up until you tell us.
Check the show notes as well. We'll leave the address to his house as well, so you can go and get an Uber straight to his house. Jared, it's been absolutely fantastic. Hopefully we'll have you on again maybe next year, and we can do a second part, because this has been really great. Thank you so much for being such an awesome guest.
Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it.